I would like to welcome you to the Mashobane Advisory Services Reimagining Youth Empowerment webinar. Tonight, we come together to explore how innovation, education, leadership, and entrepreneurship can be leveraged to empower young people and unlock opportunities for future generations. My name is Naledi Kambela, and I am a proud mentee of the Mashobane Mentorship Academy. It's both an honor and a privilege to serve as your chairperson for this webinar. Thank you all for joining us, whether you are a student, a young professional, entrepreneur, or community leader. We hope today's discussion leaves you inspired and empowered and informed. So joining us tonight, we have two exceptional leaders who are reimagining empowerment in their own respective fields. So first up, we have Mr. Andre James, who is the founder and CEO of Nuance Technology, which is a company focused on developing innovative technology solutions that address challenges in healthcare, food security, financial inclusion, and digital infrastructure across emerging markets. His work is driven by a commitment to using technology as a force for social and economic development, helping communities overcome barriers and create sustainable opportunities. Excuse me. Please welcome me in joining Mr. Andre James. So our second speaker for the night will be Mr. Tobo Katula. Tobo is the founder and CEO of Lion Tutoring International and a passionate champion for youth empowerment throughout education, entrepreneurship, and leadership development. His impact has been recognized across the continent, including being featured on Forbes Africa 30 Under 30 list and becoming the first Motswana entrepreneur to appear on the cover of Forbes Africa. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Tobo Katula and Mr. Andre James.
Thank you so much. Thank you, speaker, for that lovely introduction. Yes, my name is Andre James. I am the founder and CEO of Nuance Technology. So I prepared a slide deck of what we're discussing today. So we're discussing national digital agriculture infrastructure, hardware and systems for farmer registration, land records, and supply chain governance. If you can go to the next slide. Perfect. So this focus is right now on Congo. So we're gonna go a few slides ahead and go to the next slide. And right here. So what we're developing is a soil monitor. One of the issues that the farmers are having in Africa and many developing countries is internet access, um, and a stable connection to internet access and also a market to sell their produce. So I spent some time in South Africa, about 3 months, spent some time in Congo, another 3 months, and some time in Kenya. And I documented, what I saw. So what I saw is, we all have devices. In South Africa, people ride around in their cars with a router, or they'll have like a router in their home, or they have a phone, a router, and other multiple devices. So for the farmer, let's think about ourselves and put ourselves in a farmer's shoes. We're on a farm. We have no network, no internet access around us. But there's a solution, there's nuance. Our device for the farmer comes with its own network. We are digitizing the data that the farmer wants to see in the soil and then creating a network using previous technology. We're going back. So we're using radio and we're using Bluetooth. Then we're using a layer of blockchain to connect other devices across a farmland. And that's going to form a network for the farmer to now see in his land what he's producing. So with this new created network just for the farmer, they can now just use radio and Bluetooth But that's what Muons is using. So when the farmer logs in, they're just reading the information off their screen, just like a notification. So they'll get a notification saying that, hey, in this sector of your land, you have to, um, water the crops more. Or in this sector of the land, there's a unidentified person that you don't know in this area, and it will tell you where to go look without internet. So the reason why we are developing this is also for data ownership. The farmer now owns the data of all his land, and the agriculture data. So instead of it being inside of a cloud using like Google technology, cloud technology, as soon as you plug in or open your laptop, they own your data, every bit of it. With our devices, the farmer now owns his data. And what Muons is doing is also now monetizing on the farmer's data. So the farmer now gets the benefit on owning his land, owning the data, and also now have a second and third revenue source through data monetization and also carbon credits. Does anyone know how carbon credits are produced or where carbon credit starts? Does anyone know?
Mm-mm.
If you know the answer, open your mic or you can raise your hand.
I don't know what it is, but it sounds like maybe, something, if your carbon footprint isn't that much, then you probably get some kind of incentive, tax incentive.
So
That's just, yeah,
that's
ballpark.
that's the business of it. So that's the business of it. But where does it start? It starts on the farmer's land. Carbon production starts in the dirt, in the soil. So, being that it starts in the dirt and in the soil, it means that our device will now reading the carbon level at hardware without a person identifying, saying, hey, this is what the carbon is. The device is doing it itself. So now that's a second revenue source because everything breeds carbon. Everything that you're sitting on, the farmer's sitting on, breeds carbon. So now we're reading the carbon at a level that can never been done before accurately. So now the farmer's tapped into carbon credit market. He can actually make those sales. And now because it's offline, there's no fraud. It is locked in an immutable blockchain and now can be credible to any insurance financier. So I also want to show you our product. So I'm going to switch screens. Does anyone have any questions before we move along? So now I'm going to show you the actual product. So once we're able to now digitize the farmer's land, this is how the data will be read. You see here that we have a farmer, they have 245 hectares. One device, one soil monitor will cover 5 hectares. So that means that this farmer has 20 devices monitoring his farm and it's now loaded into our software system. And he now can see virtually how his cocoa trees are growing and the pace that they're growing in real time. So what does that mean? So some farmers now do lab treatments on their farm for soil testing. So instead of having a third-party person come to your land and test the soil, go back to a lab, then give you results in 2 weeks, it's being done now with muons in real time. The device is in your land and it's giving you a soil analysis right in your device with no internet because we're plugged in directly to the source, your land. So that means satellites mean nothing to the farmer. The satellites are only taking pictures of what is happening on the ground, but not actually in the earth. And that's the benefit the farmers need. So now with this data, it becomes premium data, it becomes premium agriculture, it becomes premium workforce for the youth. So this is what the youth will be designing. The youth will be designing the software system, managing these farmers' records. They'll be managing the AI tools, managing the language, managing the feedback for the farmer. Our devices will have to be maintenance. They'll have to be trained. The farmers now have to learn. these devices. So the farmers will be depending on the youth and universities to be on the ground with the farmer, teaching them about the sensors, teaching them about the software system. So now you have a job. That's what I've been doing for the last 10 years. I've been working in healthcare and teaching doctors how to use the software system to take care of their patients. So now you're going to be using the software system with the farmer, teaching the farmer how to manage his farm and also use the software to the best of its abilities. So this is where the farmer can also see the cultivated land. So let's look at Congo, but let's look at Congo, the entire size of Congo. So once our devices are deployed across a country, if let's say a minister or the president wants to see how his farmland is doing, all the devices will now be connected and he'll be able to log in with no internet and see that, hey, there is 130,000 hectares of cultivated land loaded into Muon software. There's currently right now 26,000 registered farmers, and there's 2019 cooperatives. What's also interesting about what we're doing is that on this screen here, the cooperative dashboard. So for the cooperative dashboard, they'll be able to see the active number of farmers. Active means that these are the farmers who are actually working on the farm and they're walking. So the sensors not only capture the data in the ground, but actually also capture who's on the farm and actually actively working on the farm. So now you can say, hey, these are people who are working today, and these are people who belong on my farm, and so on, and identify those people, identify who's working, who's not working, and be able to again pay your workers, your farmers, your shareholders, sharecroppers correctly. That's the word I'm looking for. So here it is, province by province. You're able to break down the information, how much the province is selling their produce for, the training programs, who's doing well with the training of the Muon's product, and so on. So all of this information will be autonomous, and you see here there's a health score. So this health score is going to be the health of your entire land. And when it comes to sales, the the cooperative dashboard, which is here, is it the cooperative or the farm? On the main farmer's dashboard, so this is the big boss dashboard, where he's able to see the price of cocoa or the price of the produce that he wants to sell in the market. So this gives the farmer insight to, hey, should I sell my produce locally, or should I make the sale internationally within the value chain? And now he's able to visibly see what his product is worth in the market compared to other products, and to make more effective decisions regarding his farming. Any questions?
We have one hand raised by Lungile.
Perfect. Yes, you can open your mic.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Interesting stuff that you are presenting.
Thank you.
But I just have one question.
Mhm.
You see, when I look at the range of your gadgets between amongst themselves,
Mhm.
in terms of the South African laws on communication, the Electronic Communications Act and the regulations, means that those gadgets should require a license.
Correct.
Are you aware of that, and what arrangements are you making? Because they don't seem to qualify for exemptions, like your gate remote.
Correct. So what we're doing is we're partnering with the South African government, and we're partnering with various entities within South Africa to license the technology through CETA. That's what we're working on. Right now, we're going to be using a on-the-shelf model. So we won't need a license because it's already on the shelf. But the devices that we'll be building afterwards will need a license, because we're going to be adding more technology to get the range from 5 hectares to 25 hectares in our next tech stack. So the first device that we're looking at will be 5 hectare range with one device, no license needed. But the technology we're building afterwards, one device will reach 25 hectares once we license it and get it out in South Africa. But this is a starting point. Next question.
Yes, Lungile, I hope that Mr. James was able to answer your question adequately. We have a hand from Zesiswe Bayela. You may unmute your mic.
Good evening, everyone.
Good
I'm not.
evening.
Hi. I'm not sure if it's a silly question that I'm going to ask, but I was
No
just
silly
wondering.
questions.
The technology, does it only work for crop farming? Is there like an equivalent if you're a livestock farmer? That's my question.
Yes, so we're starting in produce, but it's going to be for every aspect of agriculture. Livestock, because even the ground where the livestock is grazing, you now know what's in your ground, and the livestock is eating that. So whatever's in your ground is going to be inside of your livestock, and people want to know that. They want to know that your animals are either grass fed, are they being fed pesticides and stuff like that? So European governments, American governments are now creating laws where we want to know specifically how are the animals raised, what are they being fed, and where exactly is the animal located and where they're coming from. And they need that data to be immutable in a record where it cannot be changed or anything. It can be verified on its own, and then it'll meet the state laws for it to be shipped into that country.
Thank you. We do not have any other hands raised. I have a question, but I will save it for the end, just in case you
No,
come.
please
So you
ask your question.
My question actually was going to be well, you said you're working on getting licensing for these products in South
Mhm.
Africa. How would you suggest that we go about in engaging the youth, because it's a youth-focused webinar, and I think that agriculture is an untapped market.
It
So
is hugely.
how would you suggest we go about engaging the youth to get them more interested in agriculture and showing them that agriculture is not just, yes, it is soil, but we're advancing and it's interesting stuff.
I think more of these calls, I think once they see the technology behind it and they see the infinite amount of possibilities of having a career, because that's what you want. When I was 20 years old, I'm now 35. I just wanted a job, but I didn't know what I wanted to do yet. So I went into healthcare. I went into healthcare and I found this software that surrounds the entire hospital system. That was about 10,000 people at that time. But now that software has grown where it is needed by 350 million people. So that's how technology in healthcare has changed throughout the years. And it's going to be the same for agriculture, because now everyone is looking at agriculture at a global aspect. And there's no software system that combines all these pieces of the supply chain, how Nuance is building it. So there's going to be an immense amount of jobs because of the way we're creating this text, that we're not making it simple. If you create the technology simple, there's no jobs. But if you complicate the back end and make the user experience simple, jobs are created from the back end. The back end nobody sees. The front end, what I showed you, what they see, oh, it's a simple screen. But on the back end, there's text, there's analysts, there's blockchain developers, there's hardware engineers, there's network engineers, so many jobs. And that's what's needed. We need something concrete that really works, and this works locally without internet. So for farmers, for and universities, they'll be able to just pick up this device and just connect it to our network that we're creating in blockchain.
Thank you for that, Andre.
Definitely. So I
Yes.
definitely think more discussions, because in my opinion, it's going to be the young in the youth that's going to be educating. Just like I went into the hospitals, I'm teaching doctors. They know how to, be a doctor, but they didn't know how to use the software. And they need the software now to save this patient's life or to show proof of the data that they saved the patient's life. So they're going to be using the software in the same way.
Yeah. No, I hear you 100%. I'm very excited for this technology to be welcomed in the South African industry.
Thank you.
I can't wait to see what it could possibly do and how many
Definitely.
lives it could change.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
So any more questions, you guys can message me on LinkedIn. We're on there, Muon Technology, Andre James. My email is always open. My LinkedIn is always open for any follow-up questions or any discussions.
Perfect. Thank you. I
Thank you.
just want to let everybody know that we will have a Q&A section in the end. So you can also just type your questions in the chat. Just in case you don't want to, speak a little shy, you can just leave your questions in the chat and I will read them out at the end of the session.
Anybody else have any questions? That's all we have for today. Again, we're starting off at research right now, and we're focusing on one product. So the produce that we're focused on right now is coffee and chocolate. So it's has to be one produce at a time because we want to get the science and the data analytic down for that one produce, and then build a library of every single produce that can be sold or grown.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Andre. That was very, very informative and very, very insightful. Yeah, I appreciate that a lot. I hope that all of our attendees feel the same way that I do. Like I said, if you guys still have more questions for Andre, you can communicate with him via LinkedIn. His email is in his LinkedIn, and you can leave a question in our chat box. So up next, we have Mr. Tobo Ketula, and he will be heading our next presentation for this session. Tobo, you have the floor.
Alrighty, thanks so much, Naledi and Andre. Awesome presentation. Good evening, everyone. So happy to be here to talk about youth education and business, which is basically what I do 24/7 since 2015. Yeah, so my name is Tobo Khatola. I'm the founder of Lion Tutoring, basically based between Botswana, Gaborone, and Johannesburg. Those are our regional HQs, but we also do business in Kenya and Namibia, and this year we'll be starting to do business in Rwanda, Kigali. So basically, just to give a brief introduction about the company, it's called Lion Tutoring. It's based solely just to connect students who are looking for tutors. So as we like to affectionately call it, the Uber for tutors. So basically, if a student would like to connect with a tutor, either physically or online, they would log on to our app and they would see the tutors in their region or in their location, see their star ratings, and if they're happy with that tutor, they click on the tutor's face, see their profile, book the tutor, then we send the tutor to their house. So basically, what keeps us up at night is, the declining education marks. Basically students are basically failing all the time, and the government, instead of improving the education system, they keep lowering the pass mark so that they can say, hey, all these students have passed, but in actual fact, there's a deterioration in the education sector. Same with the unemployment. On the other hand, there's rising unemployment. People go as far as master's level and still struggle to secure a job. Both in Botswana, South Africa, Namibia, and Kenya, even well within our region, the sub-Saharan Africa, we have that problem. So basically, for the presentation for today is basically about reimagining youth empowerment through education. And I've just titled this as, we're equipping the next generation with competence, agility, vision required to thrive in a rapidly changing global industry. Okay, so we can move on to the next slide. Right. So basically, I'll just want to, as they say, if you want to get to a destination, you need to find out where are we right now and where do we want to go. And, that in between is the process that if we are here, it's not that it's all doom, loom and gloom. There is an opportunity for us to move from where we are to where we want to be. So basically, where are we today? The reality that the youth are facing, there's a rising youth unemployment. And the reason why it says rising there is because year after year, we expect that the unemployment rate will reduce, but it's in actual fact getting worse, and worse than it's being reported by our fellow politicians. They don't look at statistics like your discouraged youth, people that are no longer actively seeking for employment. So some of these statistics, we need to really have a reality check that, the youth unemployment is actually probably higher than what is being reported. There's also an education and industry mismatch, basically meaning that, what the skills that we're training our children for, are they going to secure them jobs in the future, or are they just training to be unemployed? Then there's also a rapid technological shift, which is disruption in technology, and that alters job roles or things that we are trained in. As you know, most of us, I think it's been 10 to 15 years, and I consider myself young, but it's been that long since I've graduated from school. But most of the things that I've learned at university, the way the industry has changed, across the years, even with AI, most of the things, if I don't continue going back and unlearn certain things, I'll find myself being irrelevant to the community and the job market. So as it says there, that are we preparing young people to pass examinations or to succeed in life and the future economy? So that is a question that you can answer for yourself. Can move to the next slide, please. Okay, so basically, there's a broad education gap, and I've put my slides in a way that on the left side, which is those reds, that is the traditional education focus. And on the green side, on the right side, is what the employers are actually looking for. And there's, like I said, there's a mismatch. There's where we are and where we want to be. And that in between is what we really need to, as a community, society, work on closing that gap, such that even for our young people that are going to be leaving university, going into the job market, that gap isn't that big. What they've trained for versus what the employers are looking for is almost as close as possible. So as you can see there, there's academic performance on the left side. The traditional education focuses on academic performance based on grading metrics, remote or rote memorization of tests, and passing constraints, standardized testing frameworks, and rigid linear scopes. So those are what the education system is basically focusing on. And what the employers are looking for, they're looking for active problem solving under real business pressure. They're looking for dynamic communication, digital literacy, critical thinking, cognitive ability and agility, and multifaceted roles. So that is basically where the mismatch is. And, the more that we engage in these kind of conversations, we need to see how we can close the gap. So the core socio-economic formula, as you can see there, the gap is basically caused by unemployment and underemployment. Okay, you can move on to the next slide. So in my context of tutoring and education, why tutoring must evolve. And I think seeing that we are all in different industries, you can just, personalize all of these points to your particular industry. Like we've had a good presentation. I've learned a lot on the whole ecosystem of the farming, horticulture, agriculture. But yeah, I think we're all in different industries, legal. So you can just personalize all of these points to your industry. So the first there, I would say academic excellence. And again, this is where I get to brag. Every single one of us here has went through my industry, which is the education industry. So whether you are the president or you are a lawyer or you are in farming, all of you guys are a product of a teacher or an educator in one form or the other. So academic excellence, I don't need to mention why it's very important for all of us. We need to get our children, the students, in that framework of securing a strong academic foundation, and that is the baseline. I think nowadays there's this narrative that you can do it. People went to university and they dropped out, and they are all these millionaires and billionaires, but if you look at that, those are outliers. It's 1 in a million people. And even still, they'll say, Mark Zuckerberg, he dropped out of Harvard. The fact that you're saying Harvard, the fact that he got into Harvard should tell you that there was already an academic base that his parents, the community have formed. That is why he has something to offer to all of us. So in my context, tutoring must anchor student confidence, or you can say education tutoring should be able to anchor the students' confidence in core theory. So there's a certain level of communication you need in the world. And that is when you're in school. There's a certain level of critical thinking. There's a certain level of numeric agility. Even if you are, say, in the legal world, like most of you are here, you still need to know your taxes. You still need to know that if you get employed and your employer withholds a certain amount and you have a house that you are getting rent on, you should be able to see, make sense of the numbers. You can't just live and say, I'm in the um, legal field or I'm in agriculture and you don't know basic numbers. The same with us who are in like maths fields. If you're a mathematician, you cannot not communicate to people. If you're a professor and you're good at maths, you need some basic communication. Tell people this is the logic, this is where it's going, etc. So academic excellence for all of us, very important. Confidence and leadership, building the personal resolve to speak, present, which is what I just touched on. Digital competency, in the advent of this AI, we need a little bit of digital competency, using all these systems that we use, spreadsheets, advanced systems, even digital awareness, what happens, your personal information, how you don't share it online, how you are safe while you are browsing, or every email that gets in, are you going to be clicking and, sending money to a prince somewhere in a country that I would mention. Okay, back to my presentation, career awareness, connecting classroom study to tangible market opportunities. So that is something we also talked in the previous slide, that our children need to be aware of what is happening in the global market, job market, and what is required. Entrepreneurial intellect, like myself, I didn't get a job when I graduated from university, and I needed to create a business, start a business, be entrepreneurial, and that is something that is very needed in this day and age. And then adaptability, also same thing what I spoke about. You might think you'll graduate, you'll get a job, but maybe that is not what is going to happen in your case. And you need to be able to be agile, to adapt to that situation. You may be working a job for 10 years, then you get laid off because the economy is bad or there's a fight in the Middle East countries, and you are laid off. Unfortunately, you should be able to adapt to the market. Okay, next slide, please. Yes, future skills of high demand. So basically, there are those future skills of high demand, which on the left side is technical capabilities, digital data literacy, like we spoke about, AI, which everyone is speaking about, and coding. Coding, I don't agree with my slides a lot there because, coding has become one of those. It was in the past 3 years, coding was the in talent. But, with the advent of AI, non-coders are able to get onto a platform like Lovable, Prompted, or what I use now is Claude Code, be able to get there prompted, and it can be able to code on our behalf. So coding is starting to become one of those redundant skills to have. And then critical human and business aptitude, things like creativity, EQ, emotional, like they say there's IQ, the intelligent quotient, but there's also EQ. How emotionally intelligent are we? Working with other people, how do we resolve conflicts? How are you able to work on a project with somebody who shares different ideologies as you, probably even religiously, probably even skin color? How are you able to collaborate and be emotionally intelligent, knowing that the other person is of a different race, like what we've seen through June 16. I get we always reflect back into that time of, apartheid. Some of us, we still have the trauma, but you should be able to sit down and be able to deal with somebody and, let go of your traumas or whatever happened in the past. Collaboration and financial.
Interject, Togo.
Yes.
Interject you. Andre has his hand up.
Okay,
Andre,
yeah. Guys,
mic.
feel free to just hop in anytime. I'm almost also just about to finish. Yeah, Andre.
Hey, so I just wanted to just make a comment about we said about Lovable. Yes, there are apps making other apps, but again, coders won't go out of style because blockchain is a whole nother playing field that you still need coders for. And also, you can't code around security. Lovable can't build a secure system. So you still need people to look at those hard jobs, those hard tech fields, and understand and master those fields. So it's not, there won't be coders. We have to be more skillful in our coding and learn the coding that's in demand. And that's definitely security, privacy, network, so many other stuff that's not on the cloud that we need to be looking into.
Yeah, 100%, Andre. Like, yeah, you've nailed it spot on. Obviously there are those, skill sets that or industries that are very sensitive. I mean, you're not gonna code a banking app using Lovable. I mean, but obviously for your day-to-day activities, as an entrepreneur, I probably want something that is gonna go over all my bank statements, give me financial advice to say, no, man, you are overspending, or something to just help me go through contracts. Yes, I need a lawyer to go through contracts at a high level, but something where somebody sends me a lease agreement, throw it in there, ask it for a few opinions, and then usually it will tell me to now go to seek counsel. So yeah, obviously there's going to be those high level skills, but with coding, it's starting to, these everyone can now code. It's not like 5 years back where you'd need to have a software developer. Now you'd need to, if you are running a high level kind of business. Yeah, so thanks a lot, Andre. Yes, so this is basically the shared ecosystem. So this is where we all fall below the age of 21, where we are in a school environment, parents, and the industry. All of these should be able to play a collaborative role in shaping our futures or the future of the youth. I grew up in a time where if I go home and I tell my mom that the teacher maybe gave me a hiding, I would automatically get the second one. My mom would be like, why are you embarrassing me at school? Then she would beat me again. So, I grew up from that kind of time where as children, you're accountable to the whole society because your parents are not going to be there all the time. In fact, we spend less time with our kids. I drive my kids to school in the morning. It's only that hour. Then I'm going to see them again for another 30 minutes when I get home and it's time for bed. But the teachers, they spend the whole time with the children. Young adults, you spend like Naledi and them, you spend your whole day with your employer. That is the industry side. And we should be able to be accountable to the whole community. So I think for us to shape our country, we should be able to get collaborative efforts. We should allow our kids also to be children of other people. They should be able to speak and shape our children's lives. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, and then this is just basically what we spoke about, creating jobs, job generation. So we need job creators, agile innovators, and also community leaders. So we can just move past this slide. Spoke about it. And then the holistic framework. So we go beyond simple syllabus review. So this is us at Lion Tutoring. Our academic support goes through targeted subject reinforcement and conceptual clarity and career and guidance. So basically, we help the students with their day-to-day academic targets, goals, but we also help them in terms of the careers because our tutors are actual professionals. So you'd find the English tutor maybe is a law major, and then they did maybe a postgraduate degree in education. So they can be able to advise the child to say, this is what you can expect from a legal degree. Or if it's a maths major, they can be able to give the student to say, as a maths major, these are the industry challenges that I'm facing. And, this is what, and usually it cuts down the waiting time for students to be able to make a decision as to what career they want to go into. Unified call to action. So yeah, we spoke about this, just collaborative, government, youth, business, educators. We all need to just collaborate. Yes, so that is the end of my presentation. And I would like to leave with this caption or quote that the future will not belong to the most qualified. It will belong to the most adaptable, innovative, and prepared. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that, Tobo. That was very, very informative. I am a big fan of what you do because I do believe that learning is a community effort. I would not be where I am if it wasn't for, all of the teachers, all of the lecturers, and everybody else in my community that actually took that time to support me in any way possible and motivate me throughout my learning journey. I think that another thing that I would like to raise from my side in terms of the youth and educating the youth is that I have been noticing a gap in the youth in learning. So most of the youth these days, they, like you said, they see the Mark Zuckerbergs, everybody who just dropped out, and then all of a sudden they're a millionaire, right? But I think that there is a gap between people not wanting to go the traditional school route and also having other support systems to support them on their journey. And I think that tutoring and mentorship plays a big role in that. Because, I mean, you can say, oh, I want to become a millionaire, right? But without the proper guidance, you don't know how you're going to become a millionaire. You don't have the support system. You don't know what it takes, but you just want to give up on school all of a sudden. And I think that at large as a society, we do need to do a better job at just reiterating to the youth that yes, you can go to school and become a millionaire, but you don't have to go through it the traditional way, like there are other avenues of learning that can still get you where you want to get. You just need the proper support and the proper community around you. So thank you so much for that, Tobo. We do have a hand raised by Sammy. Mabusela. Yes, Mabusela. Sammy, you may unmute. Sammy, we can't hear you. Maybe you can try and type your question in the chat and I will read it, on your behalf. Also, just a quick reminder, everybody, this is a interactive session. Please feel free to raise your hand, put questions or comments, whatever it is, in the chat box. Let's bring our minds together. Let's collaborate. So we have another hand raised by Andre.
Yeah, I just wanted to also just add to your statement what you said about, the traditional route. So I didn't go the traditional route. My highest level of education is actually a equivalent to a GED in America. So I barely finished high school. But what I did do, I surrounded myself in the industry I wanted to be in. I surrounded myself in real tech, in the real world. That's a hospital, that's healthcare, it's critical. People are dying. So tech has to work in this field. It's not a game. It's not, oh, it can't turn on, so we're just gonna just switch it off. No, in healthcare, it has to work. So there has to be another workflow, another system, a backup. So being in that allowed me to think critically about tech and meaningful uses of technology. So I've been working in healthcare since I was 15 and I'm now 35. And I finally established, my product over 15 years. So yes, it takes time going the non-traditional route, or you maybe just that genius that you're able to see and predict what's needed. For me, it took me, I'm an analyst. So as part of being an analyst now, I'm able to see and predict technology and uses of technology and where technology will go.
Yes, you're absolutely correct, Andre. Thank you for that. We have another hand raised by our CEO, Anastasia Mashobane. You may unmute.
So thank you so much, Andre, Tobo, Naledi, for this very good webinar. My point is, and I think the question goes to Tobo. Do you think that education, as it is, prepares young people for future careers of the future, literally? And then also, I find that the curriculum currently still encourages people to be job seekers. What do you think, you know, creates that? Is there anything that we can do? And how do we get our kids ready to actually venture into entrepreneurship? I know you are an entrepreneur, and because we've had chats and whatever else, it has been challenging because nobody gave you that blueprint, right, to be an entrepreneur. I mean, I became an entrepreneur in my 40s, but I know it's something that I should have done from the day, like the day that I left school. But because everybody said, okay, go do this, become a lawyer and go and work for somebody. If I'd had a different blueprint, I would have taken different decisions. So how do we equip our youth? Because there's a lot of our mentees online. And some of them, I always encourage them that, guys, can you please just start other businesses? Because government is not here to save us, right? So what do you think can be done? And then, Andre, in the US, what do you see being done that's different from South Africa, that's actually training kids to think of entrepreneurship at a young age? Naledi, that's my question, love. Thanks.
Thank you. Toby, you can go ahead and start with the CEO's first question, and then Andre will take it over.
No, 100%. No, thanks a lot, Anastasia. I think the main problem that we are facing, especially in this part of the world, is there's a mismatch between what the education system is teaching and the progression, the research that is done by these kind of agencies that see jobs of the future. So it's basically just data that sits for anyone that wants to take it. But there isn't what are they called? Workshops that you can see. Maybe the Department of Education has a workshop with the research, in Botswana here, there's one called BOCRA, it's like a research agency slash regulator. They have all of this information. They know what are the jobs that are currently trending now. They even have models that sort of would predict that in 5 years, these are the jobs to look out for. But you can never see that kind of collaboration where they sit together and say, curriculum development, before we develop the curriculum, can we sit down and see that in the next 5 years, what are the jobs that we should look for? Or even currently, as we speak, there are students that are in university training for a job that is not even going to get them a job, training for a career that's not going to get them a job because it's currently being disrupted as we speak. So I think that mismatch is what, government needs to also just be intentional, because they make it illegal for your child not to go through this curriculum. Like you can't create your own curriculum. It's either if your child goes to a public school, they're doing CAPS, matric. If they are going to a private school, they're maybe doing Cambridge A levels, or they're doing IB, or they're doing IEB. But all of these curricula still, even the international ones, there isn't much insights that are given, by these research agencies. Even Cambridge, I think we had a workshop last time in Windhoek, Namibia, where the people from Cambridge came, the principal examiners came, and we said, guys, is there any kind of data driven every time you update the syllabus? Is there some insights that you're getting from research agencies to say, is this subject? They do a little bit of it, like we saw last year, where the subject DVS was striked out because it's no longer relevant, and they put another one called global perspectives. Even some of the syllabus content in the math syllabus has been significantly changed. So yeah, I think it's just that collaborative. The students in the public schools are way worse off, but the ones in the private schools, it's a bit better. But majority of South African children are in the public sector. Yeah, so that's my answer.
Yeah, just to add on what you were saying there, Tobo, from my experience in the education system, you go through it, you're in school, you're in high school. I'll take myself for an example. Um, there is a gap between subjects and where you can take those subjects in the future as well. So the teachers will tell you, oh, yes, you can get a degree in English, but they don't tell you where that degree is going to take you. Are you going to, become a teacher? And that's like information that you have to find yourself. So there's a gap there. There's a gap also with the creative side of things. I think that not all students are the same. Not all
Correct.
students are the same. And yes, we have a set curriculum and, all of the things that everybody needs to learn from. But I think that our current curriculum doesn't take into consideration the people that are more, into art. And if it does, for example, in the private school sector, you can things. For example, I took art as a subject, but again, there's that gap of I'm taking art as a subject, but what am I going to do with this? You're not telling me what I'm
Afterwards.
going to do with this. You're giving me the skills, but you're not giving me the tools on how to use it to progress myself, you know? Yeah.
Before I
Yes, on
continue, there's two people who hands are raised in the chat.
yes.
I would like them to speak first before
Okay.
I go.
Yes. Okay, Sammy, would you like to try again, or are you gonna leave a question in the chat? I saw you also trying to unmute again. Let's give you a few seconds.
Oh, I see Sammy's question in the chat. He says, "Thank you for the opportunity. The gentleman is a man after my own heart. It is important for us to address the misalignment issue, which is huge in our country and it leads to despondency among the youth. Half the time, they do not understand the job market we seriously need to address, and it's a mindset change project. Not to go to school to get a job, but to think differently. And yes, that's exactly what I was going to address. Is the piece that I feel that is missing is critical thinking. Like you said, they telling us to go get a degree. The person goes and get that degree, but didn't critically think what they can do with that degree before applying.
Yeah.
So just like you reading information, I'm reading this magazine and it says so and so, but I'm not going to take it and critically think behind the words, how I feel about it, what's fact based about it, and what's also being researched about it, and then form opinion. What's happening now, a lot of people are just taking information and just running with it, saying that this is the information, but not critically thinking and then applying the information after research. So that's happening. And then going into creativity, yes, creativity is missing. Like, there's apps making apps. The creativity is gone. The app is making it. So instead of thinking outside of the box, where you're taking AI to simplify things, and it's honestly dumbing us down because we're making it so easy and accessible. And then the students, I witnessed it myself. I had Muon's Academy is where we have youth in South Africa come on, and they were teaching. We were teaching them our software tech stack. It's completely offline, no cloud, completely different technology. Instead of like reading about, they're using ChatGPT to tell them the information. And I'm like, guys, you're not gonna be able to pass our test like this. Our test, when you do join us, our test it is open book, but it is critical thinking.
Yeah.
I'm going to be able to know if you use ChatGPT. Then when you go to build the system, you're stuck because now you don't know how to build it because you cheated.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what's happening. So I
Yeah.
think honestly, the students, like you said, it has to be a mind shift change. That yes, we're looking at this person who has $1 million, but what were the steps that he took to get there? It's a lot of failures behind it, and that's a lot of people don't know about those failures. They just see the shiny, oh, I made it, but don't see the 1,000 steps, the critical thinking. My product changed 10 times before this product was the product.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree with you, Andre. I also think that our critical thinking issue, as I would like to call it, as a society, is somewhat rooted in the fact that youth today have an instant gratification problem.
Correct.
Everything is just at the touch of your hand. Nobody wants to put in
To
the
read, work, put in
exactly.
the work
Exactly,
ethic.
exactly, exactly. And I think that, yeah, it will definitely take a mind shift change to be like, yes, all of these AI tools are great, but you need to use it ethically, and you need to remember that you still have a brain. You need to engage your mind, challenge yourself in that
Correct.
way to be able to learn.
So it's the questions you're asking ChatGPT. Now you're not asking ChatGPT to give you information. You're feeding ChatGPT critical
Exactly,
information, and then you're having a real conversation about
exactly,
critical information.
exactly, exactly, exactly. Yes, thank you for that. We have another hand, Nandi Pasinwa. You may unmute your mic, and then afterwards I will be going to the chat box and reading out some questions in the chat.
Good evening, everybody. I wanted to touch on and just add on to what Naledi and Tobo was saying about the importance of community in studying. I feel like the reason why a lot of people are demoralized in the pursuit of education and dropping out and thinking that like they could become millionaires and not acknowledging the work that like Mark Zuckerberg might have done outside of Harvard to get to where he is now is like because of the dissonance that exists between the information we're given and how we're expected to use it. In finding jobs, but also in the education system. Like if you do not have that initial support, it can feel quite isolating. And so I think it is really cool that like in this what is it? I guess business, you are acknowledging that need and filling that gap. I wanted to ask, like in acknowledging that dissonance, how has what you studied, Tobo, prepared you for the work that you're currently doing? And also I wanted to ask what mechanisms are being used to make this more accessible to the people that it needs to reach.
Right. Thank you so much. Nandipa, right? Yeah. So, yeah, your second question was what I studied and how did it prepare me for entrepreneurship. Oh yeah, I did actuarial science at the University of Pretoria, And on my first year, I failed and discontinued. And the only other subject that I was doing well in was economics. So the university kicked me out, then I reapplied to economics. So I did economics and business. And I guess the theory side was good. There's a lot of stuff that I still borrow um, from my education. But the most thing that I can tell you now is on my second year of high school, of university, I got a job at Teach Me To, if you guys know it, one of the big tutoring agencies in South Africa. And that is where I actually learned more about entrepreneurship, the hustle, the bustle, the streets of Joburg, the streets of Pretoria. And I think it's on the job. I think we get to learn more on the job while doing it than from the textbook definition. And I know that sounds like some kind of like like I'm oxymoron, I would say. But I think there's a lot more that we learn, like what my brother said here, that he's learned more actually doing the work than actually what you learn in the classroom. So I learned a lot in the classroom, but I think I learned more on the job. But both of them are equally as important. Was there another question? I feel I forgot the other question you asked.
Yes, I had a second question, which is what were the mechanisms being used to make this more accessible for the people that it needed to reach?
Oh, 100%. You mean our service? So basically our service, like it's you can get it from your Google Play Store, from your App Store. Yeah, so we always constantly try to be in the customer's face to make it more accessible. So we've profiled all our 400 tutors in all the countries that we're in. And if you feel like you want a tutor and the next best tutor who has all the specifications you want is in a different country, you can hop online for an online lesson. So even in regions that we don't have physical tutors, like we've got students in Pietermaritzburg, in Durban. Yeah, so it's accessible in the sense that as you are trying to get a physical tutor, you can hop onto an online lesson with the tutor. So we're really leveraging tech, we're really leveraging AI, we're getting insights. The tutors also give insights on the students, so that we make the learning experience for the student better. So if the student understands a certain level of topics, the tutor doesn't need to go back onto those topics. We move to the next, and then we get all of those user-generated insights. So that's basically how we're making it more accessible for the families.
Thank
All
you.
right, I think over to Naledi still.
Yes. I actually saw that Lungile Mabete has had his hand raised. But I see that it's down now. Would you like to still speak, share your thoughts?
Yeah, my hand got tired of being raised, so I decided to lower it because I
My
thought you are not
apologies.
seeing me.
No,
Yeah,
no.
but
Apologies
it's
for that.
fine.
Floor.
I thought let me just raise a few issues. I think what is being discussed and the discussions are very enriching. And I think perhaps what part of what you guys you need to do, you need to find out who is responsible for what in the country when it comes to education and training, not only in terms of looking at the schools and universities, but also the planning behind. I've made a few comments on the notes, making reference to the HRD Council, which is the highest decision-making body constituted of ministers responsible for the education and training needs of the country. And that body can be influenced because they make most of their decisions based on inputs from interested parties who make submissions. And secondly, the engagement with the sitters that are led by the Department of Education and Training. That space, one of the nice things about that space is the fact that it is not as rigid as your basic education environment where there's a curriculum that must be followed. You can bring your content and you indicate its relevance to the economy and get it funded, and you'll be allowed to implement in line with what you have submitted. So the cities are responsible for post-school. Post-school means any person who is no longer at school, is regardless of at what stage did the person leave. You can leave school at grade 10 or at grade 8, but you qualify to be assisted and accommodated in the CETA system. And maybe my last point is part of the lessons perhaps that should be learned and encouraged is the fact that if one looks at the top 5 best countries in education in the world, they generally also feature as part of the top countries when it comes to economic development. And some of those countries have a totally unorthodox education system that is not a teacher coming forward to teach, but it's a situation where the learners from basic entry level of education are learning to be problem solvers. I think what Tobo was saying, it's a matter that maybe I can just refer you to Finland. It's a small country, but it's very influential globally because of their education system and how it is delivered. If you were to look at how they deliver it, you do a case study, it will make a very big difference in the country. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
That was very, very informative. I see we have another hand, Dion Babu. Let me just read one question in the chats, and then Dion, you can have the floor. So just going straight through to the questions. So we have another Naledi with us. She says, what role should government, business, and the youth themselves play in creating opportunities? So any one of you guys can take that one.
Okay, Andre, would you like to take that one?
So I'm sorry, what was the question?
The question,
What role should the government, business, and
the youth themselves play in creating opportunities? I think we touched on it, but let's
I
explore
think
it more.
right now, honestly, the youth have a huge advantage, especially in many developing countries, especially in Africa, because the youth is the most population right now. It's up to you guys, honestly, to get together saying this is what we want to do. This is what's going to create more jobs. You have your government there. The government is supposed to, protect the citizens and stuff like that. And right now, looking at, South Africa with the unemployment rates and the amount of youth that's in South Africa, it should definitely be more of a coordination of the youth, the universities, speaking to this is what we want to use within these sectors, because it will create this X amount of jobs for us. And I could see a future, 10, 15 years working in this sector, going from this position to this position. Not everyone wants to be a CEO or founder or boss. Some people just want to live. Some people just want to groceries and food on their table, and that's it. So I think the youth right now has a huge advantage across Africa where they can come together, mobilize to be more a part of the government, and creating these jobs and finding out this new information about what they can do to make these changes happen. Because again, you do have the advantage. You are the population. You are the future that everyone's fighting for globally across the world. It's real. Everyone's looking at Africa in 2050. They're looking at what you guys will be using now in the next 10 to 15 years.
Thank you for that, Andre. Yes, Dion, you may go with your question.
Oh yeah, sorry. Can I just quickly add. Yeah. So I think also with the businesses, sorry to interject, businesses need to be a bit more intentional about creating, opportunities for the youth. And the youth are actually quite impactful. Not to say the older generation isn't, but you get a higher energy, like what I've experienced in my company. We hire 100% less than 40 years, and I think maybe 80% less than 35 years. And these are the people that are so energetic, because when a student comes from school and the teacher is maybe of a certain age, say 45, 50, you don't want another 50-year-old coming to your home. You want a young, energetic person to say, okay, listen, what did you do with your teacher? Where did you go wrong? When is your next test? You want someone who's relatable, like an older brother, older sister type. So I think companies should be a little bit more intentional by even having quota systems to say, these jobs, let's secure it for the youth. Jobs like tech, jobs like innovation, jobs like, that require high level of energy. Yes, the older generation is also needed in the economy. They bring a wealth of knowledge, experience, mentorship in the workplace. But there's some organization where I would walk into, and there's like the whole department is 50, 60-year olds. Like, where are the young people?
Yeah.
And these 50, 60-year olds, you'd see that even the uptake of technology is a bit slower. You need a few guys who are young to say, no, listen, mama, this is how you operate this Excel. This is, instead of putting the formulas one by one, you can load this thing onto a freaking Claude co-work. Yeah, so
Yeah.
sorry, I'm getting emotional because, yo, yeah.
Correct. No, you're exactly correct. And that's
Yeah.
exactly what I saw in South Africa. So as I said, it's really up to the students, the youth to mobilize, to say, We want to be in these fields."
Yes.
Because the more you say we don't want to be in these fields, the more it's going to, get filled up by people who don't want to push the needle forward. They're
Hmm.
sitting in that chair and they're keeping you stuck because they're in that chair, because they don't want to use Excel, they don't want to use Claude. No one's going to move forward.
Yep. Yep. We're moving backwards or staying stagnant rather. Yeah.
Correct.
Hi, good evening, Naledi. Hi, everyone. I just wanted to make a comment to the previous speaker, not the previous speakers, with regards to qualifications and structure. I think
Yeah.
for us to, if we want to ensure that there's quality education, we need to have structured frameworks, qualifications authorities that ensure or ensures that there's our education is aligned to a structure. So if you look at the South African Qualifications Authority, SEQA, when it started off in 2005, benchmark against some of your leading countries like Australia, New Zealand, the US, Canada, in terms of creating our framework. And it is very important that as we are developing curriculums for learners and for the youth to be educated, that we need to make sure that it aligns to these standards. Now,
Yeah.
if we want to bring in future skills that needs to happen or that we need to cater for, it needs to be aligned to these frameworks. And the nice thing about the framework or any framework is that, or specifically qualification frameworks, is that it's a minimum requirement. So if you want to bring in technology, if you want to bring in artificial intelligence as a skill for the future, then at least you need to make sure that you adhere to the minimum requirements of the qualification. And by doing that, we ensuring that there's a quality system and that education that's taking place will be at the quality level. The next level of quality assurance then needs to be the institutions that now needs to quality assure the providers of these learning institutions. And through that process, and now we start talking about, and I think this is to Andre's point, now we start talking about what does assessments or what will our assessments look like? So to Andre's earlier point, where you was talking about critical thinking as an application to ensure competence, that it's learners' own work, brilliant. I also think that some of the things that one can look at is maybe simulation-based learning, because through simulation-based learning, you put the learner in a real-life environment. It might not be a real business environment, but it's a simulated business environment where the learner mimic and need to make decisions with regards to the application of what was taught, what he has learned, and that is what we want to do, because you then not necessarily challenging the learner in terms of right and wrong, but you challenging, why did you take that decision? What was the process of you taking that decision?
Yeah.
And you start unpacking. So now we built in reflective practices where the learner can go back and say, but hang on, Andre mentioned A, B, C, D, and E. Why did he say that? Maybe I must consider Andre's point in terms of how he has answered that, or maybe his reasoning is different. Why? And how can I adapt and how can I adjust? So now we create the platform of individual learning. You create the platform of co-learning, because you now can learn from other learners. And through that process, you can test your application. And at the end of the day, it's a platform where learning becomes continuous. It's not a once-off activity, but it's an environment created for continuous learning. So those were the 2 cents that I wanted to add to this. But I love the conversation, and I think with conversations like this is how we're going to improve, our youth. How are we going to improve competence? Because we definitely need to have a view on future skills and what does it mean. Thank you, Naledi.
Thank you so much for that, Andre. I mean, Dion, thank you so much. Yes.
Yeah,
Tobo.
just to add on that, thank you, Mr. Dion. That was so insightful. I was taking notes here. I like the idea of simulation-based learning, because right now the regulator for the education sector, I feel they aren't doing enough. You look at some of these curriculum, like I look at my kids' school workbooks, and like a question will come. Pete has 100 watermelons and he eats two. How many watermelons are left? Like, what's Pete doing buying 100 watermelons? Like it has to be practical. Like you're saying, if it's simulation based, if you are in a workspace and there's this problem, how do you solve that problem? It could be the same example, but practical. Instead of Michael buys 100 lemons and he uses 10, how many are left? So even at basic education level, we need to start getting our students in a mind frame of, skills of the future.
Yeah.
We need to do away with labeling the grasshopper. You remember what we used to do at like grade 4, grade 5, or standard 5, standard 6? You'd be labeling a grasshopper. Like, why are we labeling the grasshopper? What does the regulator say in terms of where the curriculum is going, the content, the textbooks that we buy for our kids? What are we subliminally teaching them? It's not jobs of the future, it's not skills of the future. So yeah, I resonate with what Mr. Dion said, that it has to be practical things. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
And and maybe just to follow on, and it's going to be brief, Naledi.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, Tobo, I think you mentioned something about you from Botswana. Or are you from Botswana, or are you based
Yes,
in
sir.
South Africa? You're
Yeah,
from
I'm from
Botswana.
Botswana. Yeah.
Yeah. So within the South African context, we're now moving over to the QCTO. It's a new framework that works in conjunction with the CETAs. And I think one of the primary differentiators about the QCTO is that we want to drive experiential learning. We want to drive um, giving people skills that once they once they done with the learning experience or they came through the learning experience, they will be able to actually apply their learning. And I think that is the big differentiator and one of the bigger criticisms against the previous learnership system, if I can call it like that.
Yeah.
Rightfully, wrongfully, I think that's another debate. But
Yeah.
but one of the outcomes is experiential learning. Is that we must give people that opportunity to experience. And the thing with experiential learning is it is not about the right and the wrong. It is more about why did I take this? Why did I make this choice? No, I made the wrong choice. Why did I make it? How do I make sure that I future-proof myself? So going forward, I take the right, I make the right choice. So it's about our decision making. It's about building a culture of continuous learning, staying curious continuously, and through that process we improve ourselves through the process of learning. And I think spot on to what you just said there. We need to create environments for experiential learning where people can test, because although AI is giving us brilliant solutions, it's also hampering us in terms of of of, of making decisions, functioning on our own, and become capable in terms of what we need to do. So yeah, thank you for that. That's my
Thank you.
5 cents.
Thank you. In the interest of time, we have 6 minutes left. I am just going to read a few comments we have in the chat box, and I believe there might be one more question, but let's see. Okay. Advocate Mashobane says, point of interest, we are their legal advisors in reference to Andre and Nuance Technology. Yes. And then we have Rorishang say, that is so true. School builds foundation, but adaptability drives success. Our children must learn to evolve, gain skills, and prepare for life beyond the classroom. That is from Rorishang. And then we have Luyanda, who says, absolutely love Toba and Naledi's takes on education being a collaborative effort, especially the part about offering guidance and mentorship when deciding on a career. I had a conversation with colleagues a few days ago about how many of us only fully understood the landscapes of our careers either towards the end of our studies or just after entering the job market, which is very, very true. We have a question from Marishang. She's one of our mentees. Just a quick one, whichever, either one of you can answer this one just very, very quickly. And we have 4 minutes left. So Rohishan asks, mentorship helps bridge the gap between schools and real life by offering guidance, experience, and direction. Advocate Mashobane is doing exactly that, and I'm grateful to be a part of it. How do we better prepare learners in school for life after school? So you guys can just quickly answer that, short and sweet, any one of you.
I could go first. Life after school. I think Dion said it the best. Never stop being hungry for information. The moment you stop being hungry for information, the moment you stop being a student, because some rooms that you'll enter after college, you're not the smartest one in the room. You're the novice. So what I did was I stay quiet. I always listen to every room. Every room I entered, I always gauged, am I the student in this room or am I the teacher in the room?
Yeah.
And within each room, I either was learning or leading a room because of that gauge once I entered the room of where I was at. So you also have to be very um, self-aware and have you know, professional empathic skills to be able to navigate in those rooms and to determine that as well. So it's a lot. So the moment you stop saying, hey, I know everything, I don't need anyone telling me anything, I don't need to learn anymore, is the moment that you're closing down doors, even before getting to those rooms.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Andre. We are nearing the end of our session. I would just like to extend a very, very warm thank you to you, Andre, and to Tobo for joining us and giving us, all the knowledge that you have. On the screen, we have all of their LinkedIn information, in case anybody wants to connect, ask a few questions that we could not cover in the session. So you can just take a quick screenshot of that, and then you will find them on LinkedIn, send them your emails. Let's connect. Let's build the youth. Before closing, I would like to invite our advocate Mashobane for a word of thanks. Advocate, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Naledi. Yeah, I mean, I didn't even see where the time went. That's Mr. Chusha. Mr. Chusha is our regular. He's our big fan. I have to let him talk. Please unmute, sir.
Yes, go ahead.
Advocate, thank you for the session. I have no words actually. I joined later, and I only could get Tobo's presentation, and with that, from my side, I wanted to say something, but I wanted to give to the youth actually because I wanted to hear their views as part of that. I'm based in the Eastern Cape, in the farming area of the Eastern Cape, and I was thinking actually that I wanted, as Tom was presenting, I was thinking of the youth around where I am. They are not from affluent areas, and also, if you think of it, it's more rural versus the Durban, the Johannesburg, and I'm sure the Cape Towns and the other countries, Botswana and that. And I had this in mind that I kind of had an interest in how we could somehow take what this model looks like and apply for these guys or to these guys that we have currently around where I am. But I need to thank everyone for that kind. Advocate, thank you very much for arranging this from my side. I must say that. And the quality of the presenters, as always, are top notch.
Yeah. No, as always, Mr. Joshua, but today the Youth League has been leading. My entire team is youngsters, so I was just put there in the back. I'm even surprised I'm being called in to say anything because I told them this is their night. But yeah, Mr. Joshua, I think you also need to link up with Andre because he's busy with some serious agri-tech. And I know that you're a big, big fan of food security. So that's what Andre is championing all the way from the US. He does have a company based in South Africa.
Yes.
And I was just bragging that he is actually our client. So I definitely know that you and him are going to be able to connect and do some good work in that space because the technology that he has is really, it's mind blowing, and it doesn't even need Wi-Fi. Just before you ask. So yeah, so let me thank everybody for attending, and a special mention to my own mentor, Mr. Lungile Mabete. So they say every mentor needs a super mentor. So he's the guy responsible for all the madness in my head. So thank you so much, sir, for attending, Mr. Mabete. I know that you have so much to do, but you take your time and you really, really are invested in mentoring. We really appreciate that. Tobo, I know that you're also busy, a whole Forbes, what entrepreneur, globetrotting. Thank you so much for taking your time and not saying to my team no before they could even say anything. Andre, you and I've seen each other like 100 times today. So, but thank you for being such a bright spark, and believing in Africa so much that this is the only place where you want to champion their technology. You could have done it in the US, but your heart is in Africa because you do not want to see us suffering when there are solutions that you can bring to South Africa. And I pray that one day you do get that the funder in South Africa that will really back up your technology. And who knows, it can happen sooner than later because people are starving. People are dying from hunger, and it doesn't have to be that way, Andre. And I know that's only where your heart is. Exactly. And to the awesome team, the Youth League at the office, the Chuckles team, like there's a Chuckles addiction in my company. So I call them the Chuckles team. Thank you so much, guys, for all your hard work. This would not have been easy to pull together, especially because this is your baby I left it in your hands and you did very well. So thank you. And thank you for everybody attending. I mean, it's a Thursday. You could be anywhere else. We really appreciate that you put your energy here. You're here with us, Dion, everybody that's here honestly has a touch point to Mashobane. We really appreciate you and we are looking forward to the next session. And to Naledi, our MC for the night, just this is no nepotism, but she's my goddaughter. Thank you so much for
Was
running the show so well. Yeah, guys, all around, thank you. See you next month for another amazing webinar that we are working on. So look out for the flyers, look out for the information. With that, I really want to say namaste, be well, and be safe. Thank you, guys.
thank you,
Thank
everybody,
you. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you,
joining
everyone.
us. May everybody
Yeah.
have
Thank
a
you.
wonderful day.